Hello and welcome to this Rook School video. I haven't done many Endgame videos in a while, so I thought I would get back to doing a few of those. And today we have a tricky Rook Endgame. So in this position, what would you do with white to play here? So if we take a look at this position, it's much more interesting than it seems. It looks like, okay, at first glance you might think, well, is it just going to be a draw? Is black going to win because he has the extra rook versus a pawn? But this pawn is about to promote. It looks like the king is in check here, but it can just maybe move up and escort that pawn to promotion. But if you look deeper, there's a lot more going on in this tricky little rook endgame here, and I recommend, if you're trying to improve in chess at any level, you can definitely benefit from studying rook endgames because they happen quite often. They're a much more common ending, whether it's two rooks or just one rook each. You're definitely going to see a lot more rook endgames. So what would you play here with white? Take a look at this. Try and figure it out. And then, pause the video if you really want to dig deeper before I turn on the analysis and everything. Okay, so let's dive into this tricky rook endgame. Okay, with the analysis on, we notice that white is winning here. So how can that be? If the king just moves up here to b7, well then rook can go to d7, and we have an absolute pin, pinning that pawn to the king, and the rook can just go ahead and capture this pawn, and the game will be a draw. So no win there. Another option, if we go back, is king to c5. What would happen here? Well, then you have rook to d1. The rook can drop all the way back, and if the pawn promotes, well then the rook can just attack the king, checking the king, and once the king moves, well then the pawn can be picked off. And then, there's even more here. So if we go back once again, king to a5, well, that just loses immediately with the rook jumping here behind the pawn, and the king cannot even protect the pawn anymore. So the pawn will just be picked off, and then black would win with rook and king versus the lone king. If I go back to this position, let's see. Make sure that's what I wanted to check. All right, anyway, let's look at what should actually be played. Like, what is the winning move here for white? Well, it's king to b5. And we see now white is winning, but white must, follow through correctly if he wants to get a win here. Now, what can black try to do to keep a draw? Well, we have check, and of course we saw that, if the king goes here, or if the king goes here, attacking the rook, well, that rook can drop all the way back and then get behind the pawn, and threaten to capture. So what does white do? White just moves down the board here. And then we have the rook checking again. So black is trying to just get a perpetual check out of this. But this move comes into play. Now the king is attacking the rook. So it looks like black is a goner here because the rook is under attack, and the rook can't move up here, of course, because the pawn is covering that square. And now the rook can't get behind the passed pawn because the king will just capture the rook. But there is a tricky move here. And that tricky move is rook to d4 here. And so now you think, well, wait a minute. If the rook just goes there, why can't we just promote? So if you promote to a queen, well, now you have this. Rook to c4, forking king and queen. And, of course, if the king moves, black will capture the queen and just be winning. So once the queen captures, look at the position now. Now we have a stalemate because it's black's turn to move and the king is cutting off these escape squares here, but the queen is cutting that off. So here you would have a draw by stalemate. All right, so if we go back to the position when the rook moved up here, it looks like the way forward is this. Instead of a queen, you promote to a rook, an under promotion. And now, because the king is cutting off the B file here and here, the rook is threatening a mate on A8 here. So it looks like you're forced pretty much to block with rook to A4. But what is the winning move now? Take a look at this and hopefully you can figure out what the winning move is to end it here with white to move. Well, king to b3, and that leads to a mate in 5 now. And the problem here is now the rook is threatening to mate over on this side. The king is cutting off A2 and B2, and the rook is threatening to mate on C1 on the back rank here. So at the same time, the rook is being attacked. So what can black do? Well, his options are king to B1, to prevent a mate by the rook, or moving the rook to check the king and pull the king away. So, either way, I can show you an example of how the game would finish out. What do you think? Move the king, but then you just pick that off, and then, the king tries to move up, but then you have king to b4, grabbing the opposition. Now what? King to a1 or a2. So something like that. The king could go here. And now the black king is really trapped. So the game could end with something like, I don't know, king into the corner. And what? Rook could check, but even better is to just go here, forcing the king up, and then you have a mate. So, tricky rook endgame, and that's why I recommend that you study rook endgames a lot. A lot of people, if you're a beginner, you want to improve by studying tactics, of course. Many beginners get carried away with studying openings, but you don't want to dig too deep into openings at the expense of many other areas in chess that you could learn, especially tactics, strategy, but endgames. The great third world champion Jose Capablanca, he recommended that you start by learning endgames first, really studying hard all the endgames. And Jeremy Silman, a great chess teacher and author, he recommended that you learn all the basic end games, early in chess. How to mate with a king and a queen, a king and two rooks, a king and one rook. Because then, if you learn all those basic checkmates, especially for you beginners out there, you'll be able to win more games, especially if you are winning a game and you're ahead in material and then you're not sure what to do. So feel free to leave any comments, about anything that you have to say. I always like hearing from viewers and subscribers. Also, please like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. I hope you all have a happy holiday, and thank you for watching. Have a super chess day.